Hello, everyone, and welcome to this edition of ADology. Today, I am joined by J.R. Krafft, who is the athletic director at Clay-Battelle Middle and High School in Blacksville, West Virginia. J.R., it is a pleasure to have you on the podcast today.
Hey, thanks for having me on here, sir.
To give you guys a little bit of background about JR, he has been there for 4 years. It is right near Morgantown. He previously coached football, softball, while teaching history and special education. You'll hear a lot of great things about him and why I chose to have him on the podcast today. JR, is there anything you want to share before we get going with our listeners?
No, I'm excited to be here. A lot of people think of athletic directors as older people, but I love being a young guy. I have plenty of energy to get things going, and I want to do what's best for my student athletes.
Absolutely. That's the first and foremost important thing is being in education-based athletics. It's about the student athletes first and foremost that we serve. So,
Absolutely.
all right. So we're going to jump right into this. What is your why? Why do you do this? Why do you like being a part of student athletic activities in a world that is ever changing in the high school demographic?
So I had to think about this, and I had to write it down because there is one of those questions. We get it all the time in education. What's your why? What's your why? And 9 times out of 10, we give that generic answer. It's for the kids. But in athletic administration, it's a little bit different. But I want to create opportunities for my students to belong, to grow, and to succeed through athletics and education. And to do that, it's by building programs, relationships, and systems to make every kid feel seen and valued. That's my why. Like I said, I really had to think about it and kind of write it down. But that's exactly it for me. It's to create those opportunities for kids. You know, I don't know this statistics off the top of my head, but I know we know them well. Not every kid's going to go into college and be a Division I athlete or play in the NFL or Major League Baseball and get these big stadium experiences. For me, I want to create an atmosphere during basketball, for football, for volleyball, where they're still getting introduced just like they would at a Division I game. We have the lights turned off. I want to create an atmosphere that these kids are going to look back on in 20, 30 years and go, yeah, that's pretty cool. That's pretty cool.
Absolutely. And, to kind of give you a little bit of background about JR and I is I came across him and I think he came across me just from our interactions through TikTok and just posting content, right? And, you'll hear a lot of things from him today that I will tell you he does a lot of things that I wish I had the tools and resources to be able to do. It's just not in my wheelhouse personally. But, to go on a few things that you just mentioned, you talked about some of the things that you accomplished and some things that we all try to strive for as athletic administrators in an education-based athletic program. What are 3 things that you strive to do, work on, would like to share with our audience as an athletic administrator?
So the biggest one is a game day atmosphere. We are a small single A school. We've got not K through 12, 6 through 12, about 360 students. But I want those kids to have that same feeling as if they're going to a WVU, West Virginia University sporting event. I want them to have that same atmosphere. I know our crowds aren't going to be anywhere close to that number, but I still want them to have that, that pregame moment, that in-game moment, the music. I let the kids choose the music before the games. I have to go through all of it because, there's some things that a kid will go, yeah, I want to listen to that. I'm like, no, that's not happening at all. We're not playing that song. But that's a big thing for me. I want these kids to feel recognized. I want their moment while they're playing to feel valued. I want them to feel a sense of pride in what they're doing. Another thing that kind of goes with that, we've really revamped our media days this past year. I've brought in a professional photographer. We do all the poses. We do videos. We do smoke shows, light shows. It's little things, but these kids have really enjoyed it. You wouldn't think that a bunch of high school football boys would enjoy taking pictures and doing a bunch of stuff like that, but they had a blast. That's the most fun I've ever seen that group of boys have. And I've been at the school 7 years. The most fun I've ever seen a group of high school boys have was behind a camera. It was hilarious. Another thing that I like to work on is, I got to make sure I'm organized. With my organization, you may not look at it when you look at my office, but I do know where everything's at. But you've got to be organized in this job. With the amount of physical paperwork that's getting turned in, schedules that are constantly changing, you've got to be on top of it. You've got to be organized. When someone comes and asks you a question about whatever's going on, you've got to know at a moment's notice what's going on. You've got to be ready. Um, and the biggest thing in this other part that I try to value is you've got to be adaptable. You know, you may come in thinking, all right, this is how my day is going to be, A to Z. Nope. You may have to go from A to Z first, then circle back around to C and D. Um,
Absolutely.
or something else is going to get thrown in that shapes everything else off. You know, whether it's something with a parent, a student, or even other administrators in your building, coaches, they're going to be bringing you something that's going to catch you off guard, and you've got to roll with the punches.
Absolutely. It's funny you said. I was just talking to my mentor the other day. We had a state association meeting yesterday, and I was calling him. He's like, you know, and I gave him his advice back to him that he gave me when I first started like 6, 7 years ago. He's like, "How's it going being comfortable with the uncomfortable?" I said, "Sir, I live by that every day, right?
Yep.
Because you have to be adaptable. There's things that happen throughout your job that you can't prepare for because there are situations in athletics that just pop up, right?"
Yeah.
You know, I think one of the things that you hit the nail on the head is about media days. I think that's a great tool and resource for any high school athletic department for them to be able to get that big town feel really of what they do at colleges and universities. And I'm going to change the order of question 3 and 4 just based off of what you said. And I really want our audience to hear because I think it's a really good way for us as athletic administrators to be able to decompress, have work-life balance, things that they don't get to see us do that we enjoy to do, right? So I'll ask you, how do you balance work-life and how do you find ways to decompress from your day-to-day?
So my work-life balance is when Friday, if there's no games after Friday, when I leave out of the building, my work cell phone goes off. I don't acknowledge it; it's gone. If there's an emergency or somebody that needs to really get in touch with me, all of my coaches have my personal cell phone number, and they'll say, "Hey, sorry, this couldn't wait till Monday. This couldn't wait. Here it is." But otherwise, you know, I'm very fortunate that my county provides me with a cell phone, and I have my personal phone. So I can easily leave this one on my desk on Friday and not worry about it till I get back on Monday. So I've had to really do that this year. Last March, my wife and I welcomed our daughter into the world. She was 7 weeks early. And at that time, it was right when baseball, softball, and track season started. So I thought we weren't due until May. So I thought, all right, I've got this. Well, you know, life throws you curveballs all the time in athletic administration, but it also threw me a curveball personally. So after that moment of being away from work for a while and forcing myself to be away, I've now found that work-life balance a little bit easier. Just to say, hey, it's after work hours. It can honestly wait till tomorrow. Same with my emails. I don't worry about it. Um, I now there have been times where I'll be doing something. I'll check an email, but most times I wait until the next day to worry about it. So one of the things that I like to do when I leave work, and most athletic administrators probably don't leave one event and go spend time somewhere else doing athletic stuff. But I'm very fortunate to be the public address announcer for WVU women's volleyball and the wrestling program here. So just like tonight, I'm going to leave out of here at about 3 o'clock from this gig, and I've got a WVU volleyball game this evening at 7 o'clock. They take on Utah tonight, so that's what I'm going to go do. But I love it, and I get to share that with my student athletes too, which is really cool. I do it for our basketball team, volleyball team, and I'll help out with middle school football and high school football when our regular person can't be there. So it's really cool for me to get to share that gift with my students, and they get to see that side of me. And some of them didn't even realize I did it until I started just posting videos on TikTok recently. From advice from another student, they said, "Hey, Krafft, you should really start posting your stuff on TikTok." All right, let's do it. And next thing you know, me and you get connected via that way too. So it's one of those small world things.
Well, you know, and JR, I think part of that is, right, like when I reached out to you is really because we wanted to update our script because we needed some pop. And I liked how your approach was. I liked your energy. And I think that really led to, okay, and I got to thinking about it. I could never go back to another athletic event after being at another athletic event
That's
to
it.
be able to decompress, right? Like,
Yeah.
and you know what I mean by this. It's different for all of us, right? From being in the job that is 16, 17, 18 hours a day, and
Yep.
then we go home at 9 o'clock at night and we're just dead, right? And we've been at school since 7:30. I think that is something where it's unique, and every guest that I've had on here has had different things that, hey, we go play golf. We don't do anything on the weekends except hang out with our families or whatever the case may be. And I think it's just really unique to hear, and it's really what the premise of ADology is about, is best practices, tips, resources to really give aspiring new people, even experienced people, ways to really stay in the business, right? Because a lot of people are trying to get out of education just because of the wear and tear it takes them. So,
Exactly.
but
Yeah, I mean, not just public. I do the PA stuff, but I like during the fall and the winter, not winter, fall and spring seasons when I'm not extremely busy. There's an adult kickball league here in Morgantown that I'm a part of that we're actually getting ready to wrap up our season on this Sunday. Um, and I also, this is another random one. I like to do curling, so like Olympic style curling. We actually have a club here in Morgantown. I travel up to Pittsburgh every once in a while and compete up there. So that season's getting ready to kick off here in the next week or so. So once again, I'm all about sports. I love sports. I've loved sports as a kid, and so it's really weird to say, hey, when I'm done with sports here, I'll go play sports or go be part of sports somewhere else.
it's like I told my principal the other day. My goal by the time I retire in 20 some years or whatever it is, ends up being, is to be a scratch golfer to be on the PGA Senior Tour, right?
Yep.
And it's halfway joking, halfway serious, though. My last question for you is, obviously, since we changed the order, and it's different for every state, right? Like, I have one of my friends from Hawaii that's going to be on in a few weeks, and that's going to be very interesting to kind of see their obstacles. But what are some obstacles that you face at your school in regards to both, having middle school and high school that you oversee in a very small rural area?
So for me, one of the biggest ones is fundraising.
Yep.
My fundraising base is very small. And then on top of that, not only is it the athletic department trying to raise money, it's the individual boosters that are trying to raise some money. And it's the school organizations. And we're all hitting up the same people for the same things. So, our town has a couple hundred people in it, a couple businesses. So a lot of our fundraising has to be done outside of our area. But then that's when you start running into the other two larger high schools in our county. So we're all competing for the same resources. For me, it's trying to find gym space for everybody. Yes, I'm very fortunate that I have two gymnasiums, one for my middle school, one for my high school, but still trying to find enough time for everyone to get appropriate practice time to be able to practice.
Yeah.
Um, and another one, I know I talk a lot about trying to create experiences for my student athletes, but there's some things that I reserve specifically for my high school kids because I feel like that's a high school related thing. The lights, the introductions. I say that for my high school kids. And there's a lot of times my middle school kids will feel disappointed that they don't get that as well. But I explain to them, guys, you're going to get that time. You're going to get there. You stay in the program, you trust the process, you're going to come to the high school level, you're going to get that same experience, that same pregame feel, just not right now. You have to, my thing is you have to earn your stripes. In middle school, you're sometimes you've never even played the sport before. You're starting to learn. High school, you've more than likely been a member of that team for a while. You've played that sport. You know what you're doing a little bit more. And at high school, you're really competing for championships.
Yes.
So I want to create that championship atmosphere for the high school kids and let those middle school kids earn that. So every once in a while, there's that disconnect between my students and myself that they don't understand. But then by the time they hit eighth grade or they get to high school, like, oh, now I know why you do what you do. And the biggest thing for me with is dealing with middle school and high school, and sometimes the middle school kids want the experiences that the high school kids get. But for me, I want to treat it like it's that championship atmosphere for high school level. They're competing for championships. They're competing. Their wins and losses really do matter more than at the middle school level, where they're really trying to learn the basics, the mechanics of the game. And every once in a while, the kids don't get it. The parents don't understand it. But once they get to the high school level, they're like, oh, now I know what you were doing for us at the middle school level to help us get there, to understand when we get here, we can have all of that.
Correct. Absolutely. Again, ADology with J.R. Krafft, athletic director at Clay-Battelle Middle and High School in Blacksville, West Virginia. JR, is there anything else you would like to leave our audience with in regards to best practices, tips, resources, or just advice?
The biggest thing, and I've had to really teach myself this, everything we should be doing is progress, not perfection. And this will sound horribly cliche, but it's it's part of the things that I believe in. One, it's going to take a village. You know, everyone's village is different, but it takes a village. There's strengths and weaknesses that I have that I can go to someone else in my building, like my band director, and go, hey, this is a thought I'm having. Help me walk through this, or help me figure out how to get from A to B. And she works with it. I have another teacher who's right now they're outside working. They're doing our pink out fundraisers this week. She's going to be raising probably close to $20,000 for people in our community for cancer, going through cancer. And there's things like the marketing side of athletic administration that she's a little bit better at than I might be at. Like, hey, how do I sell this idea? How do I brand this?
Sure.
And she's like, oh yeah, that's what you need to do, and we work well. And you've got to fall in love with the process, and eventually that process is going to love you back. That's why I tell the kids, right now you may not understand the fruits of your labor, and you may not understand why you're going through what you're going through, but somewhere down the line, eventually that process is going to love you back, and you're going to reap the rewards from it. And for me, that reward is seeing a kid on a Friday night make the game-winning play, or finally seeing themselves being announced Friday night for the first time as a starter, or doing something they never thought that they could do, coming back from an injury. We have some parents that are military that hey, mom or dad just came back from overseas and they're at my game now, and seeing the smiles on their faces of when they get to accomplish something big to them because they've trusted the process, they've trusted it, and now it's loving them back.
Yeah, it's absolutely about the experience, the ride, and obviously we get to be a part of it in a very small portion of it, right, in regards to just the athletic director part of it. And then I think, at the end of the day, getting them to see walk across that stage, whether they go to trade school, community college, or a four-year institute, it really is about being a part of that and trying to build lasting, really character development and long-lasting skills that they can carry with them as an adult.
It is. We want to make these young people be great human beings after they left our halls.
For sure. Again, J.R. Krafft, athletic director at Clay-Battelle Middle and High School in Blacksburg, West Virginia. JR, it has been a pleasure to have you on here. I'm excited for our audience to hear this and to be able to reach out to you with a lot of the many great things that you guys are doing up there in wild and wonderful West Virginia.
Absolutely. If anyone has any questions, things, they can reach out to me, and I'll be glad to help anyone out with any questions I have.
Awesome. Thank you guys for watching this episode of ADology, and we will be back next week with some more tips, tricks, and resources for y'all. Thank y'all.